Sherman Sizemore, 73, was a Baptist minister and former coal miner. Mr. Sizemore, who is known for being mild-mannered, friendly, and calm, did something out of character on January 19, 2006. Scream loudly and repeatedly. Ruby, Mr. Sizemore's wife, couldn't figure out what irritated her husband. He was staring at nothing and yelling at the top of his lungs, "They're going to kill me." Ruby decided not to call 911 and hoped it was just a one-time occurrence. However, it did not, and the next day, when Ruby brought relatives for assistance, Sizemore refused to see them. He was afraid that his relatives would bury him alive. None of this was making sense to Sizemore's family. Mr. Sizemore committed suicide before the truth about his behavior became known. Sizemore had undergone a surgical procedure the day before, when he screamed at nothing. This was an exploratory surgery to see if his severe abdominal pain was caused by his gallbladder. The entire procedure was to be performed under general anesthesia, with the subject being given paralyzing and anesthetic drugs. This will allow the patient to remain completely unaware of the procedure while causing no body movement to unsettle the surgeon's hands. However, there was one costly error: the anesthesiologist had given a paralyzing drug instead of the anesthetic. Sizemore was unable to move any part of his body except his eyes, but he could feel everything. The doctors couldn't see his rapid eyeball movement because it was taped over. He couldn't even scream because his vocal cords had been paralyzed. All he could do was endure the agony of sharp instruments piercing his flesh. Sizemore felt lightning bolts of pain as the surgeon ripped open his midsection and inserted a camera into his body. A vacuum-like device sucking fluids out of his body and metal devices dislodging his gallbladder were both detected by the ordained Baptist. Sherman's body was in excruciating pain with every tiny movement and cut. He couldn't do anything but move his eyes left and right. This movement, however, would eventually cause a tiny slit in the tape over his eyeballs. Sizemore's nightmares intensified as he witnessed surgeons using torture devices. Sherman Sizemore, who had faced petrol leaks and fatal accidents several feet beneath the earth, and who had faced death, was now subjected to excruciating horror. Someone in the room soon noticed Sizemore's eye movements. "Oh my goodness, he's awake." One of the doctors in the room is said to have fainted upon discovering Sizemore was awake. The anesthesiologist rushed to administer pain relievers and anesthetics to the patient. Sizemore soon passed out. Sherman Sizemore, on the other hand, had already endured 16 minutes of agony and torture. Everyone in the room expected Sizemore to sue the hospital. We don't know who made the call or if it was a group decision, but the team of doctors devised an evil plan to contain the damage: give Sherman Sizemore midazolam, an amnesiac drug. As a result of this medication, Mr. Sizemore will have no recollection of the events that occurred. When Sizemore awoke in the post-operative ward minutes later, he had no memory of what had happened to him. As a result, he couldn't figure out what went wrong. However, the most traumatic experiences he had remained deeply embedded in his subconscious. His body recalled the agony. Sizemore became insane due to this disconnect between conscious and subconscious, the feeling of horror but no experience to connect it to. His body felt dread, but he couldn't connect it to anything concrete. Sizemore may have had flashes of memory, but he couldn't tell if they were genuine. So, 2 weeks after surgery, Sizemore was having nightmares and strange visions and complaining that people would bury him alive. Sizemore decided to end his inexplicable misery by shooting himself on February 2, 2006. Sizemore's ordeal may appear to be an isolated incident, but some experts estimate that more than 20,000 such cases occur each year. This is referred to as anesthesia awareness. Sizemore's family was able to pinpoint the exact problem after collecting the medical report from the hospital and having it reviewed by another doctor. Sizemore had been through 16 minutes of hell, according to this doctor. Sizemore's family filed a lawsuit against the hospital, and they were awarded a large, undisclosed sum to settle the dispute. What are your thoughts on the Sherman Sizemore's case? I really appreciate your input. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Be a part of the Chris Crime Diaries family and hit the subscribe button now.